Before session, we learned what is friction, what factors affect friction, why friction is causing. Okay, now we will learn what are the types of friction. Before starting this topic, let me give a quick recap. What is friction? Friction is an opposing force. Why it is causing? Because of irregularities. As I said, no surface is completely smooth. So even a smooth surface have irregularities. What is happening because of irregularities? Because of irregularities, they both are getting interlocked. Because of that interlocking, we should apply more efforts, means we should apply more force to break those interlockings. And so friction is causing because of irregularities. And what factors affect friction? First factor is nature of surface. What is nature of surface? Whether it is rough or smooth. If surface is rough, there will be more irregularities. If more irregularities, interlockings will be more. In the same way, the surface is smooth, the irregularities are less. So compared to roughness, if the surface is rough, friction offered by the surface is more. And is friction depend on area of contact or independent of area of contact? The friction depends on only two factors. One is weight of the body and second one is the nature of surface. The friction is independent of area of contact. As I said, if I move the remote in this direction and if I keep the same thing in inverted and if I move, the friction is same because weight of the body is not changing, right? Okay. So what are the types of friction? Types of friction. There are four types of friction. One is sliding friction. The second one is fluid friction. The third one rolling friction, and the fourth one static friction. So in this session, we will learn what are the four types of friction and how we can imagine them. Like I will show some pictures so that you can remember them and you can understand the concept in best possible way. So let us learn about static friction. So what is static friction? You can see a man. What you can see? There is a cupboard. There is a cupboard, and he's pushing it. He's trying his whole efforts, and still the box is at rest. He can't move. Why? Because of friction. And because of friction, the block is not moving. Why it is not moving? As I said, if I am applying force in this direction, friction will act opposite to it. If I apply the force in this direction, friction will act opposite to it. Friction is an opposing force. Okay, so you can see here he's pushing it with 10 newton in this direction. The friction also pushing the same block in this direction. So as you know, net force, what is net force? The net sum of two different forces along with direction. So 10 newton in this direction, 10 newton in this direction. What is net force? Same force, equal amount of force applying in opposite direction, net force will be 0. Here net force is 0. As net force is 0, if force is 0, acceleration is 0. If acceleration is 0, the body is at rest. So he is applying 10 newton in this direction, friction will apply 10 newton in this direction, and net force is 0. So the body is at rest. And what is this opposing force? The opposing force is friction. And what is that friction? Static friction. Okay, so you can say static friction is friction that occurs when the surface area is in contact or at rest, not in motion. Hmm? There, what are the examples? A book resting on desk, a potted plant sitting on sidewalk. You can see that, right? If the object is at rest, then the frictional force is static friction. What is this? Here the object is not at rest, right? Even three children sitting in a slide and they're happily enjoying in that snow world. What is that friction? Which force is dragging them back? As you can see, after sliding, after some time they will stop, right? Where they are stopping? Because of friction only. Because friction is opposite force. What is that friction? That friction is sliding friction. What is sliding friction? Sliding friction is the friction force that opposes the direction of motion of an object that occurs when solid surface slide over the another. Okay, you can remember the definition, but what is it mean? It means like when the body is at rest, what is that frictional force? Static friction. When the body is in motion, there will be a frictional force, and that friction force which is dragging it backward direction is sliding friction. Example: combing your hair, moving a block in solid surface, even writing pencil point is moving, right? It's sliding. Even this example is sliding friction. You can see them, right? So many children are happily enjoying in that snowball, not in the snow world, even in daily life. If something is sliding, right, the name itself says sliding. If something slides, the opposite force acting on that body is sliding friction. So this is about sliding friction. First we learned what is static friction. The body is at rest and the opposite force acting on that body is static friction. Static, rest, sliding, moving, right? Sliding. So here the people are sliding in that wooden pieces, right? Wooden pieces, and they're happily enjoying. So the frictional force which is acting on the opposite direction is sliding friction. And here you can see the man is happily playing in the club. So you can see he is rolling a ball, and the spear will hit those and they will fall and he gets some score. Okay, we don't care about that, how much points he is getting, but we should concentrate on this point. There, as we learned static friction, the body is at rest, the body is sliding like wooden piece sliding in this before example, it's sliding friction. But here the ball is not sliding, the ball is not at rest, in fact it's moving and it's hitting those bottles. What is the opposite drag it gets? What is that friction? That friction, even in this case you can see the basket is not sliding, it is attached with some wheel and the wheel moves in forward direction. Why it is attached with wheel? Why can't he drag that basket? Why he should spend extra expenditure to buy that wheel and he's fixing that? So we'll learn now. That is rolling friction. What is rolling friction? We learned kinet sliding friction and static friction. This is rolling friction. What is rolling friction? Rolling friction is friction that occurs between surface in motion in which one of the surfaces or wheel is rolling. Like it's rolling, right? Let me give you an example. This is at rest, static friction. This is moving, sliding friction. But it is not rolling, it's sliding. But I can take the marker, right? It is rolling. See, it is rolling, it is not sliding. So what is the opposite drag it is getting while moving in forward direction? You can see this, right? Marker, it is rolling, it is not sliding, it is rolling. This one is sliding, this is at rest, static friction. So rolling friction is friction or opposite drag it gets when something is rolling, not sliding. So example, riding a bike, the tires you can see the balls, right? The ball is spinning, the movement of football, everything is rolling. And see, as everyone know, in the previous case also, why does he attaching that wheel to it? Why can't he drag it? Because rolling friction is very less compared to sliding friction. Why? Because rolling friction, the point of contact is continuously changing. You can see a tire, right? You can fix a plaster to tire at one point, again it comes to top point after some time. Like the surface is changing continuously, the point of contact to that surface. So rolling friction is very less compared to sliding friction. That's why easily we can roll a body but we can't slide a body. We should apply more effort. So see that old man is struggling a lot to move that basket, but when the wheels are attached to that, he is happily moving with singing songs, happily enjoying. He is enjoying nature, he is not putting his efforts to move that basket. Why? So rolling friction is less. Even you can say, what is the use of rolling friction? We learned rolling friction, we should use them in daily life, right? As I said, rolling friction is very less compared to sliding friction. You can see in this picture also, you can sense it, right? You can see his hard work, and in the second scenario he is laughing. Why? Because rolling friction is less compared to static friction. So even these are what ball bearings. What are ball bearings? Ball bearings are spheres arranged in that metallic ring. What is the use? Why we are learning ball bearings? Ball bearings are, when the ball bearing rolls, it is rolling friction. As we know, rolling friction is less compared to static friction and kinetic or sliding friction. Friction is applying in daily life. We can't do any work without friction. We should face it. But let's face in less friction, right? The friction should act, but let it act, but less friction. So the how the fan moves in this direction, right? So in fan, we fix these ball bearings and we decrease the friction. See, this is fan and these are the ball bearings. These are sliding, right? Continuously sliding, right? Instead of sliding, if we are fixing ball bearings to that fan so that it will roll it. So if it is rolling, the friction will be less. If friction is less, the opposing force is less. If the opposing force is less, energy is saving, right? We should not put extra effects to overcome that friction. So rolling friction, this is the example in real life, and even this is the example in real life. Rolling friction is very less compared to sliding friction. Even to our luggage bags, if they say to drag it, I can't drag it continuously for 1 hour or 2 hours. But if I fix some wheels to it, I like to enjoy it. Like, even I will ask other bag to give so that I can play with it, because I should put less efforts, right? It's funny also, I can enjoy it. So this is the one quick snap of it. What is static friction? Force is applying, friction is applying in opposite direction. As I said, net force is zero, no motion. Static friction, the body is moving in forward direction, but some drag will be there. Friction irregularities are, as the presence of irregularities, the friction will be in action, but the body is moving, that's it. Sliding friction. And in last case, rolling friction, you can see the body is rolling, the upper part is moving, sliding. As I gave this example, right? It is rolling and it is sliding. So this is the quick snap of those what I taught. And what is this new friction? We learned about static friction, we learned about kinetic friction or sliding friction. We can say kinetic friction or sliding friction, both is same meaning. And third part, we learned rolling friction. We learned even those old man example, right? He's happily enjoying his life when I gave him wheels. What is this fluid friction? So before going to this topic, let us understand what is a fluid. Fluid is liquid and also gas. Even gas is known as fluid, and even water means liquid, right? Even liquid is known as fluid. So fluid friction. So what is fluid friction? We can see the definition. Fluid friction is the friction that occurs when object move across or through a fluid or gas. As I said, fluid is a gas. Example: swimming, grazing on striking hinge. Okay, let us make things simple. Why to learn it complex way? If a solid surface is moving in solid surface, then static friction, kinetic friction or sliding friction or rolling friction. But here the surface is not water, the surface is not solid, the surface is liquid or gas, then it's a fluid. Even fluid is not smooth, right? Even you can see the boat is moving in forward direction, as friction is opposite direction, the friction is acting in this direction, the direction of motion is in this direction, there is a drag it. So the friction offered between surface and fluid is fluid friction. You can see the word fluid itself is saying it's due to fluid. And you know this example, right? we will keep a spoon in water and we are whirling it. You can see the structure of water is changing. It's somewhat disturbed manner. After some time it comes to normal state. Why? Because of fluid friction. Fluid is an opposing force, right? Like fluid friction is an opposing force. Friction is an opposing force. The fluid applies in opposite direction because of irregularities only. So this is what happening. The boat is moving in forward direction due to fluid friction. The fluid is applying in backward direction. Then the boat is experiencing some drag, and the drag is because of fluid friction. Fluid friction. The force try to slow down objects. I can on the engine of boat and I can on for 5 minutes. I can stop. After some time, the boat is stopping because continuously it is experiencing fluid friction. As friction is applying in opposite direction, after some time the body will come to rest. If I am rolling a ball, after some time the ball is stopping because of opposing force continuously acting on that ball while it is in motion. If I am sliding a block, after some time it comes to rest because continuously the friction is acting on the body in backward direction, and friction is an opposing force. Here, all gases and liquids are fluid. As I said in before only, gases and liquids are known as fluid. Okay, both swimmers and even in aeroplane, right? You can see this aeroplane is moving in air, and you know this point, to reduce fluid friction, the shape of that body is changed. We will learn again in how to increase and reduce friction. So here the shape of the aeroplane is somewhat different, right? It's not like a lorry or bus shape. I can give the aeroplane in bus shape and I can attach some wings and I can move in air. No, it is somewhat sharp in this edge. Why? Because this specific structure gives that aeroplane to experience less drag, less fluid friction. Even the boat is right. See the sharp one. Even the birds have sharp one. See, even this ship is having in this ship. Why can't I fix in this way like a bus? Bus. You see the front surface of bus. Even lorry. I can't give that shape. Why? Because if the shape is in this flat, then it will experience more drag. Okay. So this is about different types of frictions. Can see this friction. What is friction? It's an opposing force. Thank you.